Our next session is titled Show, Don't Tell, How Real-Time Data Drives NOI. Our speaker is Stephanie Brown, Head of Business Development at REBA. Welcome to the stage, Stephanie.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for everyone who's in the audience right now. This has been a jammed-packed conference so far, and we're only on day one. So I appreciate you and your interest in data. I am excited about it. I spent 20 years working for Trammell Crow and the management side. So I was running portfolios of properties. And during that time, one of my biggest frustrations was trying to get accurate data and having to pull it from multiple sources. We had clients with their own instances of the property management systems. We had our own. We had different. I had a client in one market that had one property and one in another, but for me to analyze a market, you know, my property with a portfolio within that market just took a lot of work. And from what I'm hearing and from some polls that we've taken recently, that is still the case. So there is a lot of time. I think it's, 90% time gathering the data and 10% analyzing, when really we need to flip that, right? So the reason why I'm excited to be here today is to tell you that that is available. Today, we have solutions up and running today that offer you a data warehouse, so to speak, where we pull in all sorts of data from your PMS, multiple PMS systems, ingrained maps, your reputation management. You can overlay your data. I'm going to show that to you in a minute. And that's pretty exciting when you can think that you can actually think strategically, look through your portfolio at a few clicks of a button and start making decisions instead of being frustrated, burning out people, having to do redundant tasks on, you know, putting Excel spreadsheets together and repeating the process, or the weekly reports that clients want that you're having to repeat and actually physically pull multiple reports for. So here we go. Okay. I don't know that the updated slide deck is here, but we're going to go with this one. So what ifs? I'm going to walk through a scenario of a senior marketing manager who, and this is a real life scenario, worked for a 20,000 unit company that used third-party management, but had a hard time getting all the data that they needed. And this marketing manager, as you know, in marketing, it is hard to gather all the data. You have so many sources and really dig in. So what she did was she was able to pull up some screenshots, and it would actually be very helpful if we could, as I walk through this, I don't know if you can pull up the revised deck. Okay. So we'll just talk through some of the points. This is supposed to be show me, not tell me, but right now I'm going to tell you until we get the correct PowerPoint slides up. She found that by using these dashboards, which I will show you in a moment, that one of our properties, 151 unit property in New York City, was underperforming in occupancy. And so when that happened, she wanted to dig in, so to speak. So because she had a tool available to her that had all of the sources in one place, she actually opened up a dashboard that was full of alerts. So it's by property, you can sort it by market, and it'll tell you these properties are missing these 5 key metrics, so you need to look here. So she could then dig in and pull up what's known as a funnel report. So this is a great place to start, right? You have your lead to visit, visit to application. It has all of your measurements. You can sort it by portfolio and start there and then go to the property and say, wow, am I hitting or missing here? Where am I hitting and missing? So what happens is that she found that they were doing really well on their leads to visit. So they were converting their leads to visits. But where they were missing the mark was on their visits to application. But then they turned around, and any application they got, they converted to leases at a higher than the portfolio average. She was able to determine this within 2 clicks of a button, right, without having to gather the data. And then at that same time, she was able to, I wanted to show you this particular report because it is an interactive report. You can see actuals for the portfolio, but on the other side of it, to the left, you can actually see the funnel input. So if you are missing your occupancy by 0.5%, put it in as a target goal, and this is going to tell you how many leads you need, and you want to reach that occupancy in, say, 4 weeks. Is that reasonable? You can see on here in this funnel report if it's reasonable or not. So you can do what if, you can have what if scenarios. So after looking at this report, she went ahead and pulled up a report that showed her where she was having occupancy problems by bedroom, and it happened to be the 2 bedrooms were historically running at 14% availability as compared to the others. Then within another click of a button, she could go in and she could look at the, I'm trying to do this from memory here, she looked at a report that was showing her highest lead sources, right? So now she can tell that there were 2 sources of traffic that were really giving her the best lead conversions, and the others were not. So she could eliminate that cost. She went to the cost report, found out that her portfolio was higher than average, and all within, this is within seconds. And then she determined that even though her cost per leads were higher, she could reduce her marketing spend, actually add a little bit more money in the areas where they had better results, still reducing her marketing spend and increase occupancy, which you wouldn't necessarily think would be possible, but they were able to do that. They were also able to see the fact that their visits, most of their visits happened on Saturdays, and their conversion from application to leases happened on Monday, Tuesday. So they then could take a look at staffing and say, how are we doing on Saturdays? Isn't that usually when a lot of properties understaff, right? Because nobody wanted to work the weekends. And so they were able to rearrange their staffing to handle the visits. And now the visits to applications increase. So within minutes, she can make this determination just by using the dashboards that were available to her. This is great because what happens is that typically at the end of the month, you're getting a P&L and you're looking at it and saying, you know, by that time it's too late to course correct, but now you can course correct during the week, every day if you'd like, by looking at these dashboards. All right, we're gonna maybe move on to the next one. Not really. Oh, you're going to get to see some of these dashboards, which is what I was telling about. I'm going to go back. There we go. Okay. So all right, we're going to get, in this dashboard, you're going to see the alerts that I was talking about, right? The 4s, they have 5 metrics across the board. They've sorted by market. They have 5 key measures that they're measuring. They see that the top properties in red are missing 4 of them. That's where they're going to dig in. But also, you want to know which ones are performing right, because you want to send those great congratulation notes out to your teams that are performing. You don't want to always hit them with the bad news. There's the funnel report that we saw. Here's the availability report, and that line across the top, I don't know if you can see it, is a 14%, where you can easily see that your 2 bedrooms are the problem. You can also see your move-ins, your move-outs, and you can dig in and say, we better take a look at our renewals, because we're having higher renewals than we want at this point in time. The marketing channel report that I discussed earlier, where you can see who's performing and who's not, what your conversions are on those lead sources. And then again, your recent customer events. So you can see where on Saturday, that blue line high is all the visits that were occurring, and then the green lines Monday, Tuesday are where the visits where the applications to leases were happening. So they wanted to discuss staffing. Here's the cost per lead chart. So you can see how they're doing, and you can see how they're doing against their portfolio. It's all very flexible. Now, another thing that's pretty interesting is taking your PMS data and your property management system data and overlaying it on some maps. So visual, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we're going to talk about one owner-operator who, I'm going to click this, and you can watch this building lease up, actually. So you're going to put your property management data on here and overlay it on these maps. And this was, I think, a 2-year lease up. It's a very big, obviously, large community. And so now you're able to see your availability and where you're full. This particular client was able to see that one side of the tower was leasing up faster than the other. They caught it very quickly and realized that in entering the data into their property management system, someone had left out a $500 amenity fee, and therefore one side of the tower, that side, was leasing up quicker than the other. So they were able to catch that, course correct, and they did not lose a lot of money in that, because if they had waited, obviously, that would have been a big error. So there's other things that can be overlaid here that are very helpful. You can overlay work orders. You can overlay your average days on market. So let's talk a little bit about that. So a pricing and revenue manager looked at the data, looked at the map, noticed immediately the top floors had because you had the average days on market, that they were available more often and longer than the rest of the building. So what happens? A 10% reduction, you can read it in 83rd floor units, is a reduction in your GPR, which is scary, by $9,600, but it also meant if you made that $10 reduction, they actually were able to reduce their vacancy by half a month. And so actually it netted out where in value, if you cap the savings at 5%, they've actually increased value by making that 10% reduction by over $500,000. So you can make these kind of decisions and quickly see by using this visualization tool. This is probably one of my favorite because it's very difficult to get this information, and renewals are so important, right? It's typically half of your income, and oftentimes you're having to cobble together all of these different reports. You have your financial data with the ledger information, the revenue management data, market rate, trends, leasing history, service requests. So let's imagine that your property management team has this available to them. This is a property with a specific resident. They come in to argue discuss their renewal increase. And so right here you have all the data. You have how many lease terms they've been. You have whether they have outstanding balances, what the market rent was when you made the offer, that's the dotted line, what the market rent is now. So you can empower them to make very quick decisions on whether you're going to negotiate with this resident or not. Because if you lose that resident, now the market has dropped and you're going to be bringing somebody in underneath them, so you're probably more likely to negotiate on that. Or conversely, if market rent is high and they're like, oh, our $200 increase is too high for us, and you're like, yeah, but we didn't bring you all the way to market. It's now $400 higher than what you were paying. But you have that in a split second. So you have turnover on the leasing side or on the management side. Anyone can open up this dashboard, see what's happening, and make a decision that quickly. That usually doesn't happen right now, I'm telling you. Some of the other things that, if you want to try and imagine this with me, there wasn't enough time to put all the possibilities on there, but right now, reputation management and survey data, we've been talking about that. Right now, we're thinking that if your reputation score is lower, right, your survey data is lower out there in the market, that maybe your occupancy is lower, but you don't know if that's true or not. We've plotted that now. And it is true. So you have the hard data to prove it, but not only that, you can drill in right in this single source of truth without logging in anywhere else and find the data right there that's saying what the problem is, so you can course correct again and fix that problem, and you will raise your occupancy, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with the data if you have it all in one place and you have these dashboards that are, give you the ability to make the data-driven decisions instead of having to spend your time gathering all the information, and it leaves little time for strategy, if sometimes ever. So anyway, I hope this inspires you to think that there is a possibility to have it, because it's out there right now. Thank you. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Buildings that have arrears on them or portfolios that have arrears on them?
Yes.
Would it create a dashboard that shows what units or what buildings have the most arrears?
Yes.
It has that option?
If you have the data, it
Okay.
can be overlaid on it, yes. Are there any other questions? Sorry about the clunky start, but thankfully you were able to see a little bit about what I was talking about. Do we have any other questions? All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your time.